Let me wrench on the car while telling you the story for a change here and for efficiency's sake. Some of you may have seen it a while back, some of you may not. How I took the manifold off here to replace the gasket and allegedly sealed the whole deal off for good. Well, it didn't last. It was long enough for, until I had finished cutting the video. In the following days the leak came back. At first I thought, well, probably because the gaskets were in there crooked. You could see I pinched them quite a bit. They weren't a perfect fit really. So what I did naturally was just fit another gasket, which I've got to say fitted a lot more nicely and is what I would use again. But it didn't take, 2 days of driving and the leak was back yet again. So something can't be right. And well, when taking the second gasket off, I noticed that the leak was in exactly the same place as the first one. And when rechecking the footage of where I put the manifold onto my surface plate, I did notice that right where the leak had developed, right over here, there was indeed a high spot, or rather a low spot, of the muffler. Now it wasn't much, maybe 3/10 of a millimeter, but apparently a gasket isn't supposed to be able to seal that much of a gap. And it wasn't a consistent gap. It probably would have worked if the entire thing was low by that much, but well, it was just at the end, and that's probably what killed it. Now the last time I did this, I didn't take the carburetor off. I could fit yet another gasket, and mind you, I did fit this gasket here twice using sealant the second time, which also did seem to work for a while, but didn't in the long run. So I think we'll need to straighten this manifold out. And since I have a shaper, well, that's what the plan is anyways. Kind of a bummer having to open this thing here up again, because that was leak-proof. Not anymore, it isn't. Now, I also discovered that the imprint pattern on here wasn't quite consistent regarding the height of the ports. The intake manifold is actually way low and it's very short before breaking through and not sealing properly. So we'll try and address that problem too. It's December the 23rd, by the way. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Jingle bell time is a swell time. Take the night away. And there goes that son of a bitch. Yet again. Okay, we've got the manifold set up on the windowsill once again, and now let me reenact the scene of the last manifold gasket replacement video But this time I'm going to elaborate a little more about what's going on. We'll start off with cylinder 1, the exhaust port. Well, the camera won't show it and I can't see anything neither. This one is dead on flat against the windowsill. So that one's good. Now if we move over to the inlet of cylinder number 1, you can indeed see light shining through here. Now it's not much. Let me get a feeler gauge here. So that looks like just about 1.5 tenths here. Millimeters, which is seriously what I would say a gasket could compensate. The next one is the exhaust port of cylinders 2 and 3. Shining a light underneath there, you can see, yes, it is not lying flat on here, and it seems to be tapering off towards the sides and more in the middle. But still, this is 2 tenths and it's just about fitting. It isn't over here, but it is in here. Still what I would call adequate to make a gasket illuminate. Now this one here is actually quite severe. You can easily see the gap in there. Don't actually even need to send a light through it. And when we slide the 2 tenths feeler gauge in here, you can see it fits. And it does so all the way around. But then again, the gap is even. And now we move over to the last cylinder. Cylinder 4's exhaust port, and I think, well, obviously the leak is towards the right, not even a need to shine the light through here. But since it lays flat on this side, you can see there is no light passing through the very edge, but it is clearly able to fit through on the right hand side. 2 tenths fits in here easily. And I think that is where the problem is, because it's not even all the way across. It's just on the right hand side. On the left hand side there is none. And the bolt is right where my finger is and not over here. So it's one-sided load and it's, slanting off towards that side. So in my opinion, that's where the problem is. What's unrelated to the exhaust leak is the following. When I take a straight piece of metal here, align it with the exhaust ports here and there, you can see these two are aligning perfectly, but the inlets are quite a bit low. Now it's dropping shadows everywhere, but maybe with the light here you can see that. It's not much, but it's 3 millimeters, I would guess. And taking a look at the gasket, it is very close to not sealing off properly anymore. And, what's almost as bad as an exhaust leak is a vacuum leak. So that's actually what we're going to tackle first. You can see that the intake manifold is bolted to the exhaust manifold with these 2 screws, and maybe there is enough play in the holes that we can slide it over. If not, we'll have to drill these holes open a little further. And I'm hoping I'm not going to snap these bolts, because apparently these guys do like to do that. So wish me luck. So this is the best I was able to do. I decided not to drill any new holes or larger holes because the amount of meat there was quite shallow. So now lying these against the sides here, we're down to, I would say, 1.5 millimeters, maybe 1, which is, still not perfect, but it's a damn lot better, and hopefully, you know, the old way it was mounted sealed up sufficiently, so this is going to be even better, I hope. By the way, this is how well the gland rings hold up. You probably can see in the camera that this one's quite badly warped. This one's, well, it's warped too, but it's okay, I guess. This one as well. And this one, well, it's got a kind of a warp to it too. You know, temperature and force can do things that small pieces of metal just aren't made for. I'm going to reinstall them anyways. I'm going to straighten them up a bit, but you know, just so you know, these are probably not going to stop your manifold from drooping. I don't think so. So here's the setup I will be using. I've clamped the carburetor manifold in the vise, and I've used the gasket on this side and a piece of aluminium on the other side to keep the surfaces from marring. For the end supports, I have these bars here strapped to the table. They're under positive lock, so hopefully they'll absorb the tool pressure. I've put some cloth into the intake manifolds because I don't want any chips in there. And well, we're going to jack in 1/10. I was able to get it within 2 100ths of a millimeter between this end and that end, and that's where I'm going to keep it. Jack in 1/10, slowest speed, and we'll see how it's doing. There is two philosophies on this. One is you want to have the best surface you can, and the other is you want to have a rough surface to have something that the gasket can bite into. I'm just going to machine it, see what kind of surface I'm going to get, and then I'm going to pretend I wanted just that. So, well, nothing else but switching the machine on is left. I wasn't within 200ths of a millimeter. I was within 1 millimeter and 200ths of a millimeter. Well, after a mere half hour and 3/10ths off the top, we finally got contact all around, and I've gone in here and taken one of these straight edges and run them all the way across each surface, and it looks plain. So that's all the checking I can do with the thing in the machine, and next I'm going to take it out, put it on the windowsill again, and then we'll see if it's hopefully making contact all the way around. Now, whenever I'm doing large jobs like this one here, I kind of feel like I have to defend the car because, you know, an exploding pulley, for example, from a generator is not something that happens because of archaic design or, you know, faulty mechanics or something, or because it's old. That's just tough luck. With this one, it's kind of bad design, because the hottest part is of course this one here, where all the exhaust from the 3 previous and this cylinder come into. And it's only held in with one bolt. It's not held in from 2 sides, like this one, like these 2, and this one is free as well. So it's just bound to warping at some point. And my theory is that, you know, this is the first time the car really got pushed for a substantial amount of time, and it never really gotten this hot before, and that's why it's now warping. I mean, this thing is probably a new reproduction unit. It's got hardly any rust on it, so I'm pretty sure it's not original to the car and they just slapped a new one onto there. And probably, you know, it just wasn't stress relieved right before. And now that I got it, it finally found, you know, the position it wants to be in. Enough waffling about, let's get this thing off here and check it. Well, it's flat. I'm kind of trying to find an angle where you could see at least a little bit of light shining through. But, you know, the best I can get is showing a little bit of light through the middle here. And you can see it tapering off towards the sides. That's not critical because the holes are at the sides and the middle doesn't really do anything. But regarding the ends, and you know what was critical before, there's a tiny little bit, but that's just the intake. We don't worry about vacuum leaks. You know, there's just no light shining through, which is of course a great sign. So hopefully now the gasket is going to be pleased. My God. Regarding surface finish, it's pretty smooth all the way around. We've got a little bit of chatter marks around the inlet ports, but as you know, that's exactly what I was shooting for. So now I'm going to slap the damn thing back onto the engine. So I took my sweet time and a spatula and a wire brush to make absolutely sure that the mating surface here is clean, so that now hopefully everything will seal up and will never leak again. So I just had the damn manifold on here and come to find that the gland rings no longer fit. Makes sense because I've taken some off the manifold so the counter bores aren't as deep. The thing is that it took at least 1 millimeter of grinding away for these to no longer interfere. You know, the proper way would be to increase the depth of the counter bores, but since I don't have a milling machine, that's not something I can do right now. So the short fix is shortening up the gland rings. But makes me wonder if maybe, you know, the interference was there already and I just didn't notice it, and therefore that's why the manifold became warped. I don't know. Now here's the secret to sealing off that portion of the muffler. It's not aftermarket gaskets or any of that sort. It's plain muffler cement, and plenty of it. Put some into the bracket as well. Okay, it's Christmas Eve, 24th of December, and I've had the car running a little bit yesterday just to harden out all the muffler cement, and now we're going to go for a quick ride and see how she's doing and if she's leaky or not. Now, I don't have smell-o-vision, so probably it's going to take a while for me to notice it as well, but I'll have you know if it smells or not. I can still smell the exhaust cement, muffler cement hardening up, but it was really the low RPM underload which made her chuff and leak. For example, up this hill. Now, she's not warm yet, so we might not experience it, but it might just happen. We'll take a close listen. Didn't hear anything yet. Smell of the exhaust cement is gone, which is good. Now, this is the sort of situation where she would have leaked. Well, maybe a slight smell of exhaust. I can hear the intake, but not the exhaust, which is great. But now we're coming up to a roundabout and I'm going to take a right, and that hill is where she usually would start leaking. So, you know, if it doesn't leak there, then I am going to call it fixed. Right now. This hill was an utter smoke show before. I called it the hill of suffocation. I didn't. You know, I might jinx myself here, but I think she idles better too. Before that, it was kind of, you know, you had to keep her a little happy. We're coming up to a speedy part. I'm not going to go the 70 kilometers because it's raining, but you know, 60 kilometers should be doable. Maybe 65, 68. Woohoo! We're doing 80. that's how you fix an exhaust leak on a Model A Ford. Thank you for watching.